My Facebook feed has a split personality. It whiplashes back and forth between friends posed by pyramids, castles, tropical beaches, boats, even gondolas in Venice, to posts of protest, dense photos of Israeli flags and marching feet, videos of voices chanting, "Demokratia!" Shelley Trachtenberg, who led and guided our Temple Emmanuel March of the Living group, poignantly posted on Wednesday, 40 years is a number of biblical proportions. 40 years ago today, Josh and I made Aliyah, making Israel our home. Yesterday, we took part in 2 protest demonstrations, one in the morning, the other in the evening. We joined, she wrote, for the umpteenth time, thousands of Israelis carrying Israeli flags, chanting our determination for this country to remain a democratic one for all. 40 years, she concluded, a lament, a hope, and a prayer. Ein li eretz acheret. I have no other country. A friend pointed out that one of the defining features of the regular protests in Israel is that as existential as this moment is, and it is, as divided as Israelis are, and they are, there is a shared sense that each individual's actions can shape history in the making right now. More and more, Israelis are more deeply engaged. More and more American Jews, looking at the challenges over there, are opting out. Those of us who care deeply, who follow the news closely and may even participate in stateside efforts, are an increasingly small minority. And even in that minority, there's a growing sense of impotence. What can we do? Our beloved usher, Danny Mando, AKA the Chazan at the back of the room, is a devoted brotherhood leader, organizing the Federation of Jewish Men's Club annual conventions. This year, he received and shared with us the following from one of Brotherhood's young leaders to the 2025 planning team. This leader wrote, "Israel sucks the air out of every Jewish room I've ever attended. Israel," he continues, "simply isn't the draw for millennials that it is for the older generations. This is not," he continues, "a shanda that the FJMC has to fix. This is a reality to which the FJMC and the larger Masorti movement has to adapt." His suggestion is a move that is increasingly adopted by many Jewish organizations, to go with the cultural flow, to focus less on Israel and more on our American Jewish concerns. The generational rift, opened in disagreement, widens with disengagement. In Israel, they are charged up. Here, we are checked out. This week, our member, Betsy Hecker, shared with the JFNA a question hidden in plain sight, which speaks profoundly to this conundrum. She observed that when our Parsha recounts the negotiation between Moses and the tribes of Reuben and Gad, who do not want to go into Israel with the other tribes, but instead prefer to stay and settle just on the other side of the border, there is a strange detail. You see, the Torah repeatedly mentions those two tribes and their request. It signals Moses' clear fury and frustration at the idea that after he devoted an entire life to the quest of getting the Jewish people to the Jewish land, after an entire generation died in the wilderness, that Reuben and Gad say, "No, thank you, we're all good here." And it telescopes the way that Moses reframes that problem into an opportunity, with his acceptance of the tribes of Gad and Reuben as shock troops, protecting those who settle in the land from external threat. And here's where that strange detail comes in. When Moses agrees to Gad and Reuben's plan, he adds a twist. Vayiten lahem Moshe, and Moses gave to them livnei Gad ulivnei Reuven ulachatzi shevet Menashe. The land on the other side of the border, Moses gave to the descendants of Gad, the descendants of Reuben, and half the tribe of Menashe. Wait a minute, Betsy asked. We get why Reuben and Gad stay on the other side. They asked for it. But why the tribe of Menashe? And why half the tribe of Menashe? There's no evidence that they asked to stay there, and there's certainly no evidence that half of them volunteered for this dubious honor. Nowhere else in the Torah do we hear of half a tribe. Why here? Betsy's research led her to Rabbi Ephraim Mervis, the current chief rabbi of the UK, who offered a teaching of the Degel Machane Ephraim, grandson of the Baal Shem Tov, who understands that if Reuben and Gad were geographically isolated, that over time they would become not just practically, but spiritually and emotionally separated from the rest of the people. They would develop their own identity, quite distinct from their distant cousins who did not share real life experience or even aspirations. Sound familiar? Consequently, Rabbi Mervis concludes that Moses created a bridge. Half of Menashe on this side, half on the other side, to ensure a constant connection. In going back and forth often to see their family and their friends, the tribe of Menashe would keep those other two tribes connected to their home and homeland, which is exactly what we need today. When we are over here and they are over there, when they are charged up and we are checked out, there is inevitable distance. What we need today for ourselves, for our children and our grandchildren is a Chatzi Shevet Menashe. While the natural inclination is to feel dispirited by the ratio of those engaging with Israel compared to those like the young men's club leader who was arguing for turning away towards breezier fare, the good news about Chatzi Shevet Menashe is that it is, by definition, not everybody. Chatzi Shevet Menashe flips the script. It takes only a few to build the bridges of engagement. That's actually something we all can do. In fact, you and me, right here in this room today, can be a modern Chatzi Shevet Menashe. How? Our Hartman travelers just returned from an intensive immersion in Israel, grappling deeply with the challenges of our time. Next summer, join them. That's Chatzi Shevet Menashe. When you reach out to Israeli family or friends, because this is a hard time, when you seek out Israelis locally and invite them to share their take, and wherever you are on the political spectrum, you listen and share the load, that's Chatzi Shevet Menashe. When you subscribe to an Israeli paper or listen to a podcast, that's Chatzi Shevet Menashe. When you send your kids or grandkids to a summer camp with Israeli madrichim, where they can hear and hold both complexities and care, where because they know Tal or Itai or Sharon, they lean in to learn more about their connection to our Jewish home, that's Chatzi Shevet Menashe. When you sit lovingly with the next generation, making space for their thoughts, that's Chatzi Shevet Menashe. When we are adrift from each other, we can give in to that drift, or we can remember. We share so much, and it takes so little. Chatzi Shevet Menashe is you. Shabbat Shalom.